This video is based on real events and contains discussions of violence, crime, and other disturbing subject matter. Some viewers may find the content upsetting. Viewer discretion is strongly advised.
Of Brianna Denison and her accused killer surfaced today in court. And we want to warn parents, you might not want your kids to hear some of it.
Police say they have arrested a suspect in the kidnapping and killing of a 19-year-old college student. Police issued a statement overnight announcing a news conference Wednesday morning on the arrest of a suspect in the slaying of Brianna Denison. Investigators said DNA evidence gathered from the scene linked Denison's killer to 3 other sexual assaults on women at or near the campus from October to December 2007.
She left a party and never came home. 26 days later, they found her in the snow. Albert Jimenez was on his lunch break. Subway. On his way back to EE Technologies, he cuts through the empty lot like he always does, dead brush, frozen ground, dirty snow. Then something stops him. A flash of color in a ditch. Neon orange, half buried under broken branches, and an old Christmas tree someone threw out weeks ago. He tells himself it's a mannequin. He walks closer. The collar is attached to feet. The feet are attached to a body. He doesn't have his phone. He runs. When Reno police arrive at that industrial park, they find a young woman lying in a ditch 8 miles from where she was last seen alive. No coat, no clothes, nothing on her body except a pair of bright neon orange socks. She has been lying there, hidden under weeks of snowfall, while her photograph covered every telephone pole in the city, while her mother sat by a phone that never rang, while 1,700 volunteers spent 26 days searching every field, every riverbank, every dark corner of Washoe County. 26 days. Her name was Brianna Denison, 19 years old. But this is where the story gets darker. Brianna wasn't the beginning. She was the end, because the DNA found at the scene where she disappeared matched evidence from 3 other attacks on women near the University of Nevada, Reno attacks going back to October 2007. 3 women, targeted, assaulted, terrorized. 3 women who survived, who reported everything, who sat with investigators and gave them every detail they had. And it still wasn't enough to stop him. The man who killed Brianna Denison had been doing this for months, watching, choosing, getting bolder with every victim, perfecting exactly what he was doing. By the time Brianna fell asleep on her friend's couch after a night out, he was ready. He walked through an unlocked door in the middle of the night, took her without making a sound, while her friend slept just feet away, and disappeared back into the darkness. What happened next, and how it finally unraveled, is one of the most chilling cases this state has ever seen. Before we go any further, what you just heard is not fiction. Brianna Denison was a real person. Her mother, her brother, the friends who loved her, they are still living with this. Every name in this story belongs to a real human being. This video contains detailed content involving abduction, sexual violence, and murder. If you need to step away, this is your moment. There is no shame in that. For those who stay, viewer discretion is strongly advised. This is the story of Brianna Denison, January 2008. Reno, Nevada. The Bush presidency was in its final year. The American economy was beginning to crack. Mortgage crisis, markets wobbling, the country bracing for what was coming. But in Reno, the biggest little city in the world, life ran on its own terms. High desert air, snow-capped mountains pushing up against the skyline, casino lights burning 24 hours a day, because in Reno, the clock was just a suggestion. 4 blocks from downtown sat the University of Nevada, Reno, 18,000 students, a campus woven right into the fabric of the city. This was Martin Luther King Jr. Weekend winter break ending. Friends cramming in one last night out before spring semester swallowed them whole. Off-campus rentals packed. Doors unlocked. The comfortable, careless feeling of being exactly where you belonged. Nobody locked their doors on nights like this. But somewhere in those same streets, in that same 1-mile radius around campus, a predator had been hunting women for 3 months. 3 attacks. Same DNA at every scene. Same method. Same victims, young women, alone, near UNR. 3 women had survived. None of that had stopped him. And on the night of the 19th of January, 2008, James Biela was about to cross a line he had never crossed before. Her name was Brianna Denison, bride to the people who loved her. 19 years old, born in Reno on the 29th of March 1988. Sparkling blue eyes, $1 million smile. Her mother Bridget was her best friend. Her younger brother Brighton was the person she was fiercest about protecting. She graduated from Reno High School in 2006 and left for Santa Barbara City College in California, studying child psychology, because she didn't just want to understand people, she wanted to help them. She volunteered at an early learning center, spending hours with young children. That wasn't extra credit. That was just Brianna. Her friends called her breezy, quirky, strong-willed. The kind of person who noticed when you'd gone quiet and picked up the phone to check on you without being asked. She came home to Reno for MLK weekend, because she always did. Family, friends, a few nights out, then back to Santa Barbara. She had no reason to think this trip would be any different from any other. Saturday, the 19th of January 2008. Brianna's day started the way ordinary days do, puttering around her mother's house in sweats, doing laundry. That afternoon, she and Bridget went to the movies and saw 27 dresses. They laughed. They had the kind of afternoon two people have when they're genuinely each other's favorite company. That evening, she was supposed to head back out for the second night of the SWAT 72 snowboarding festival, but she had a cold, and for a moment she had second thoughts. Bridget told her to go. You can be sick tomorrow. So she went. She and her close friend KT Hunter hit the events before ending the night the way college kids do at Mel's Diner inside the Sands Regency Casino Hotel on North Arlington Avenue. Early breakfast, noise, laughter. A night that had gone well. Around 4 a.m., Brianna and KT headed back to KT's place, a burnt orange, 2-story rental house on Mackay Court, just blocks from the UNR campus. 4 male friends dropped them off at the door and drove away into the dark. Brianna was too tired to drive across town to her parents. She'd crashed on KT's couch before. It was nothing. It was normal. KT gave her 2 blankets, a cushion, and a teddy bear to bolster the pillow. Brianna settled onto the leather couch in her gray sweatpants, white tank top, and those bright neon orange socks. Before she closed her eyes, she picked up her phone. She texted her boyfriend goodnight, told him she loved him. The timestamp on that last message, 4:23 a.m. She set the phone on the table, her purse nearby, wallet, ID, keys, everything she needed in the morning, right there, within arm's reach. She pulled the blanket over herself, laid her head on the pillow, and fell asleep. She felt safe. She had every reason to. What nobody knew was that the windows of that rental house had almost no coverings. From Mackay Court outside, anyone passing by had a clear, unobstructed view straight into the living room. A clear view of Brianna, alone on that couch. The back door had a glass panel. Like most nights at that house, it wasn't locked. That felt normal. That was just college life, the quiet assumption you carry, without thinking about it. That evil doesn't slip through unlocked doors at 4 inches the morning, silently, while your friends sleep just feet away in the next room. But it does. Sometime around 4:30 that morning, he came to Mackay Court. Police believe he had already been out that night. Less than 500 yards away, just minutes earlier, he had tried to break into the apartment of a woman he had attacked weeks before the December victim, the foreign exchange student who had survived him. That door held. So he moved on, from the street outside the burnt orange rental house on Mackay Court. Through the uncovered windows, he had a clear, unobstructed view, straight into the living room. He could see Brianna lying on the couch. He came through the rear door, the glass panel, the unlocked handle. No forced entry. He simply walked in. Inside, multiple people were sleeping. KT upstairs, her housemates in their rooms. Nobody heard a thing. Brianna was alone. Investigators believe he pressed her face into the pillow first hard and fast, before she could make a sound. What followed is told entirely by the evidence left in that fabric. 3 distinct blood stains, each between 1 and 3 inches across. Bite marks pressed deep into the material. Forensic pathologists would later conclude she had suffered a bleeding injury in or near her mouth or nose at the moment her face was being forced against that pillow. Fast, controlled, silent. His hand on the rear doorknob left touch DNA evidence he had no idea he was leaving. The second blanket KT had given Brianna was found on the kitchen floor, 6 feet from the couch, along the path to the back door. The teddy bear was gone. He carried her out into the frozen January dark. Temperatures in the 20s. Snow on the ground. What he left behind told the rest of the story. Her shoes, still lined up neatly on the floor. Her phone on the table. Her purse, wallet, ID, keys. Everything she would have needed to survive that night, still sitting exactly where she had placed it hours earlier. He took her out with nothing except those bright orange socks. One blood-stained pillow, one blanket on the kitchen floor, and then nothing, just gone. At 9 a.m., KT Hunter walked into the living room. The couch was empty. She looked at the pillow, a dark stain, bite marks pressed into the fabric. Brianna's shoes still lined up neatly on the floor where she'd placed them the night before. Phone on the table, purse untouched. KT called Brianna's number. It rang on the table in front of her. She called Brianna's mother first. The moment Bridget Zunino Denison heard KT's voice, she knew. Her daughter was responsible, careful, the kind of girl who always checked in, who never disappeared without a word. Bridget got straight into her car and drove. And KT called 911. My friend spent the night last night on my couch. She's gone, and there's something that looks like blood on the pillow. The dispatcher asked if Brianna could have simply left on her own. No shoes, no phone, no purse, no coat. It's freezing outside. I need the police at my house. Reno Police Homicide Detective Dave Jenkins arrived at Mackay Court within minutes. 32 years on the job. He walked through the rooms, the pillow, the back door, the shoes still sitting exactly where she had left them. He didn't need long. It was pretty apparent that this was not a voluntary missing person. Blood from the pillow was tested. It was Brianna's. The rear doorknob was swabbed. Unknown male DNA. That DNA was run through the system. And then came the result that changed everything. It matched DNA from 2 prior sexual assaults in the same neighborhood. November 2007, December 2007. Both victims, young women near the UNR campus. Both had survived. Both had reported what happened to them. The same man, the same signature. And this time, he had not left his victim behind. To understand what happened to Brianna Denison, you have to understand what had already been happening. For months before she disappeared, someone had been targeting women near the University of Nevada, Reno campus. By the time Brianna fell asleep on that couch, Reno investigators already had his DNA in their system. They had a method. They had a vehicle description. What they didn't have was a name. 3 attacks, 90 days, 1 mile. The 22nd of October 2007. A campus parking garage right beside the campus police station. A UNR student named Amanda Collins was walking back to her car after an evening class when she was grabbed from behind, dragged between 2 parked vehicles, and sexually assaulted at gunpoint. She didn't report it, not then. She was terrified, traumatized, and she kept it to herself. Which means when investigators looked into what was happening near campus, they had no idea this attack had even occurred. Amanda Collins had survived a man who was just getting started. The 13th of November, 2007. A parking lot near campus. Another UNR student, leaving in the evening. Grabbed from behind fast, overwhelming, without warning. He sexually assaulted her and left. He took her underwear when he went. Not on impulse, deliberately. A compulsion he would repeat every single time. She reported the attack. DNA was collected. Investigators had him in the system now, but without a prior match. There was nothing to link it to. The 16th of December, 2007. Near campus. 0 inches. The morning. A year-old foreign exchange student was walking when a hand clamped over her mouth from behind. She lost consciousness. When she came round, she was inside a vehicle. A 2005 to 2006 Toyota Tacoma extended cab pickup truck. She was sexually assaulted and then driven back and dropped near her home. He told her not to look at his face. He took her underwear. He told her what would happen if she said anything. She called 911 anyway, and she gave investigators something that changed the case. An exact description of the truck, the make, the model, the extended cab, every detail she had held on to while unconscious and terrified in that vehicle. DNA from her rape kit was tested. It matched the November attack. Same man. Then he came back. He returned to her apartment and tried to break in. She survived. But the message was clear. This was not a man who made mistakes. This was calculated, organized, escalating. Reno investigators now knew they had a serial predator working within a 1-mile radius of the UNR campus. But here is what they still didn't know. A fourth attack had happened first. After Brianna's disappearance flooded every news channel and her face covered every billboard in Reno, Amanda Collins finally came forward. She told investigators about October. She sat with a sketch artist and helped build a composite of her attacker, a composite that would later prove critical. 4 women, 1 man. And now, Brianna was gone. 3 attacks in 3 months. Same DNA, same method, same ritual underwear taken every time. He had stopped targeting parking lots and gone inside a home. He had stopped leaving his victims behind. He graduated from serial rapist to murderer, the prosecutor would say at trial. And somewhere in Reno that January morning, he was still walking free. Within 24 hours of Brianna's disappearance, Reno had transformed. Her photograph was everywhere, on television, on casino marquees, on billboards along every major road in the city. Blue ribbons began appearing on car antennas, mailboxes, telephone poles, storefronts. Blue, Brianna's favorite color, until it felt as if the entire city was wearing her name. Reno Police and the Washoe County Sheriff's Department coordinated every available resource. And then the community itself responded in a way few Nevada cities ever had. 1,700 volunteers combed through 100 square miles, fields, riverbeds, dumpsters, ravines, abandoned buildings, drainage channels, neighbors, students, total strangers, people who had never met Brianna Denison but couldn't sit at home while she was still out there. "It's up to us to find her," one Reno resident said. The family set up a search command post at a local casino. More than 2,000 tips flooded the hotline. Reno investigators interviewed nearly 100 registered sex offenders living within a mile of Mackay Court. Everyone was cleared. There was a backlog of 3,000 unprocessed DNA samples from prior sex offenders at the Washoe County Crime Lab. The community raised $150,000 in 5 days to fast-track the testing. 700 men came forward voluntarily to submit their own DNA and remove themselves from suspicion. Not one was a match. On January 29, the website BriannaDenison.com launched to coordinate the search and keep hope visible. Nevada's First Lady, Dawn Gibbons, personally joined the search effort. On February 2, America's Most Wanted featured the case. CNN, Fox News, ABC, CBS national media descended on Reno. The family issued a public statement. On the 20th of January 2008, she became the daughter of our entire community. Bridget held on to hope in the only way a mother can. She told reporters, "She's out there. I know she's out there, and there is no way I can finish my life without her. She has too many wonderful things to do." On February 14, Valentine's Day, 25 days since Brianna had vanished, Bridget went on local television and looked into the camera. "I just want to say to my daughter Brianna that I love you and I miss you." The snow kept falling. February dragged on. No DNA match. No suspect. No answers. Everyone quietly knew what the calendar meant. The longer she was gone, the harder it became to hold on to what Bridget was holding on to. The 15th of February, 2008. Albert Jimenez was walking back from Subway, his lunch break, the usual shortcut through the empty lot in South Reno, 8 miles from Mackay Court. He saw the orange fabric in the ditch among a pile of discarded tree limbs and an old Christmas tree someone had thrown out weeks ago. He thought it was a mannequin. He walked closer. He ran. He had no cell phone. He ran back to EE Technologies and called Reno police. Officers arrived and secured the scene. A young woman's body, partially concealed beneath branches and covered by snow. She had been here for more than a week. The snowfall that had blanketed Reno all through January and February had hidden her for most of the 26 days the city had spent searching. She was wearing only a pair of bright orange socks. Nothing else. Albert Jimenez had seen Brianna Denison's face on billboards all across Reno. He told investigators he hadn't thought the woman in that ditch looked like her. On the 16th of February, 2008, the autopsy confirmed what investigators already knew. It was Brianna Denison. 26 days of blue ribbons and volunteer searches and vigils, and hope, all of it collapsing in a single moment. Brianna's Aunt Lauren later said, "Here you have this horrible person who is still on the loose, and you just pray to God he won't hurt or kill anyone else." Bridget Denison received the call. There is nothing more to say about that moment. Some things don't need to be described. Within days, hundreds gathered near the field in South Reno, where Brianna had been found. Candles. More than 500 teddy bears piled beside a white cross at the edge of that field. The same people who had spent weeks searching now standing in the place where she had been all along. School children placed a sign at the memorial. "You changed a community. You changed a nation. We will never forget you." The blue ribbons that had meant hope now meant something else entirely. The autopsy was conducted on the 16th of February, 2008. Cause of death: strangulation. There was also evidence of sexual assault. But what investigators found intertwined with her body told a story beyond the crime itself. 2 pairs of women's thong-style underwear. Neither belonged to Brianna Denison. The first pair was pink. The elastic bands were consistent with the abrasions and scrapes found on Brianna's neck. Dr. Ellen Clark, the Washoe County medical examiner, testified that they appeared to have been used to strangle her. They were her murder weapon carried to that house before he even walked through the door. The second pair was black, size small, decorated with cartoon etchings of the Pink Panther and pink hearts. Forensic analysis found the DNA of an unknown woman on them, a woman whose identity investigators could not establish, a woman who had never come forward, a woman who may not have known what he had taken from her. Neither pair was Brianna's. Reno police made an urgent public appeal. The underwear was described as distinctive black cotton, size small, the Pink Panther cartoon and hearts clearly visible. If you recognize this underwear, come forward, because these were not accidental. They were not random. They had been collected, kept, brought to that field deliberately, and left beside her body. Trophies from previous victims, a signature, a calling card, a taunt. Reno Police Chief Michael Pullman put it plainly. The suspect left these items there, either to taunt the police, to taunt the community, or somehow didn't realize he had them. The implication no investigator could ignore. Somewhere out there was a woman who had survived this man and had no idea her underwear had just been found at a murder scene. The investigation intensified, and then, for month after month, it hit wall after wall. The DNA told them everything except the one thing they needed. It matched across every crime location: the rear doorknob at Mackay Court, the scene where Brianna's body was found, the December assault, the November attack. Same man, same deliberate, organized method, same signature. A composite sketch circulated across every news outlet in Nevada. The description of the Toyota Tacoma, extended cab on repeat. A white male, between 28 and 40, slender to medium build, brown hair, and still no name. Reno Deputy Police Chief Jim Johns was direct about the fear running through the investigation. "I'm worried this guy is still out there, and I'm worried somebody else is going to get hurt." The city responded the way cities do when a predator is walking their streets unnamed. Gun sales surged near the UNR campus. Stun guns and pepper spray sold out across Reno. Students who had walked home alone at night without a second thought stopped doing it entirely. A freshman told reporters, "A lot of students think he's going to do it again. Everybody is pretty scared. Students are carrying tasers, pepper spray, and bear spray. I'm very paranoid." A campus that had always felt alive after dark now felt abandoned before sunset. Tips poured in. Investigators worked everyone. More than 4,000 by April 2008, and not a single lead held up. The regional sex offender unit had already contacted more than 1,700 registered sex offenders across Washoe County. All cleared. 700 men voluntarily submitted DNA to remove themselves from suspicion. Not one matched. Detectives described their suspect as someone who stalked his victims, methodically calculated, patient, organized. A man who knew exactly what he was doing and had been doing it for months. A man who was one step ahead of every lead. Spring came, then summer, then fall. Somewhere in Reno, a man who had attacked 4 women, murdered one, fled the state, and sold his own truck to vanish was still free. He was careful, organized, smart, but the trophies he couldn't stop collecting were still out there. And someone, eventually, was going to notice them. James Michael Biela, 27 years old, a pipe fitter from Sparks, Nevada, a suburb of Reno. So close, you could be at the UNR campus in minutes. He had served in the United States Marine Corps, enlisting in 1999, and stationed at Camp Lejeune, North Carolina. He reached the rank of Lance Corporal before being discharged in 2001 for drug use. He was back in the Reno area by 2002, working construction and training in martial arts at a local academy, reaching Blue Belt, one above beginner, at a facility frequented by Reno police officers who trained alongside him and noticed nothing. There was never abnormal behavior at all from anyone I can recall, the academy owner later said. To everyone around him, he was unremarkable. He lived in Sparks with his girlfriend, Carleen Harmon. They had a 4-year-old son. His neighbor across the street told reporters after his arrest, "He seemed like a nice, normal guy. I guess killers don't wear a sign." In 2007, Biela took a construction job working on buildings at the UNR campus. That job gave him exactly what a predator needs: intimate knowledge of the area, its layout, its lighting, its blind spots, the rhythms of student life around him. He had been watching long before he started acting. He had a prior misdemeanor arrest for threatening a woman's neighbor with a knife. Nobody had connected it to anything. When Brianna's body was found in February 2008, and police released the composite sketch and Toyota Tacoma description to every news outlet in Nevada, Biela understood exactly what it meant. In March 2008, he quit his job and drove to Washington State. On the way, he sold his Toyota Tacoma to someone in Idaho, stripping the most identifiable piece of physical evidence, connecting him to his crimes. He thought he'd gotten clean away. He was wrong. November 1, 2008. 10 months, 2,278 tips. Not one had produced a name, until this one. An anonymous call came into the secret witness tip line. The caller had something to say about a man named James Biela. Her friend, Carleen Harmon, had confided in her about something she'd found in Biela's truck: 2 pairs of women's thong underwear, not hers. When Carleen confronted him, Biela told her he'd stolen them from a woman at a laundromat. The caller had more. Biela had recently owned a truck matching the exact description the December assault victim had given investigators. He had worked construction on the UNR campus. And in March 2008, the same week, Brianna's body was found and the composite sketch went public. He had left Reno in a hurry. Detective Adam Wignansky met with Biela on November 7. He asked for a voluntary DNA sample. Simple, fast. Enough to either clear Biela completely or confirm what investigators now suspected. Biela refused. He said he had an alibi. His girlfriend would confirm he was with her the night Brianna disappeared. He had done this before, operated in plain sight, avoided suspicion, walked away clean. He had no reason to believe this time would be any different. When investigators spoke to Carleen Harmon separately, she denied his alibi. But she did something else. She gave investigators permission to take a DNA sample from her and Biela's 4-year-old son. The lab results were unambiguous. The boy's direct biological relative could not be excluded, as the source of DNA recovered from the rear doorknob at Mackay Court and from the December assault scene. Biela was the match. Investigators also confirmed something about the field in South Reno, where Brianna's body had been concealed for 26 days. It was directly across the street from Carlene Harmon's workplace. He had chosen it because he knew it. In a recorded conversation, Carlene facing Biela in an interrogation room, tearful, barely holding together, she asked him directly, "Did you do this? Oh my God, did you?" He didn't deny it. "If I told you I did it," he said, "you'd still love me and be with me." Investigators had enough. The 25th of November, 2008, 5:30 inches, the afternoon. James Biela was pulling up to the Stepping Stones Children's Center in Reno to collect his 4-year-old son from preschool when investigators moved in and placed him under arrest. He was booked into the Washoe County Jail on charges of murder, first-degree kidnapping, and sexual assault. A direct DNA sample was taken from Biela that same evening. Investigators at the Washoe County Crime Lab worked through the night. At 6 a.m. on November 26, the results came back. 100% match. 10 months and 5 days after Brianna Denison fell asleep on a couch at Mackay Court, they had him. And then investigators learned something they would hear confirmed again at trial. On the 15th of February, 2008, the same morning, Albert Jimenez had found Brianna's body in that South Reno field. James Biela had been at work. When a co-worker asked how he felt about the discovery, Biela's response was read aloud in court by the prosecution. She probably had it coming. He cracked a smile. Then he collected his final paycheck, walked out, and drove toward Washington State. Prosecutors would later call that comment chilling insight into the mind of a killer. After his arrest, investigators searched 3 computers found in Biela's home. They contained thousands of internet searches about the investigation into Brianna's disappearance. He had been monitoring everything, watching from the inside as the city searched for him. The news of his arrest broke across Reno the next morning, with the force of 10 months of held breath finally released. Washoe County Sheriff Mike Haley stood before cameras. No one should have to suffer as Brianna Denison did. Brianna became everyone's daughter. Brianna's aunt Lauren spoke through tears. "We are pleased that this person is off the street and he cannot hurt anyone else." The trial of James Biela began in May 2010, more than 2 years after a 19-year-old girl fell asleep on a couch at Mackay Court and never woke up. Washoe County District Attorney Dick Gamick's office brought an overwhelming case. DNA evidence linking Biela to every crime scene. The pink thong panties used as the murder weapon connected directly to him. Cell phone records placing him in the neighborhood at the time of Brianna's abduction. Gray fibers recovered from a victim's clothing, consistent with the gray velour interior of the Toyota Tacoma he sold in Idaho. A co-worker took the stand and told the jury what Biela had said the morning Brianna's body was found. She probably had it coming. He said it with a smile. Then, he collected his last paycheck. And then the survivors spoke. The first, the woman attacked at gunpoint in the campus parking garage in October 2007, sat in that courtroom and looked James Biela directly in the face. She told the jury he was the man who haunts my dreams. The Nevada Supreme Court would later rule that her testimony alone was sufficient to support his conviction. The foreign exchange student who had survived the December 2007 abduction returned to testify. Investigators described her reason simply. She felt a moral obligation to ensure he could never hurt anyone else. Throughout all of it, Biela sat at the defense table, motionless, expressionless, staring at nothing. His attorneys asked the jury to spare his life. They described an abusive childhood, an alcoholic father, violence as a backdrop to everything he had become. They asked the jury to weigh that against what he had done. The jury deliberated for 9 hours. On the 27th of May, 2010, they returned. Guilty on every count. First-degree murder of Brianna Denison, kidnapping, sexual assault, 2 additional counts of sexual assault, and kidnapping for the attacks on the other victims. Bridget Denison had sat through every day of that trial. When the verdict was read, she had no comment for the cameras. Some moments require silence before words can reach them. On the 30th of July 2010, Judge Robert Perry sentenced James Biela to death for the murder of Brianna Denison and handed down 4 consecutive life sentences without the possibility of parole for the other crimes. He remains on Nevada's death row. Every appeal has been denied. Most recently, in June 2019, the Nevada Supreme Court ruled that his arguments do not warrant relief. In Nevada, a law now bears Brianna Denison's name. Brianna's Law Senate Bill 243 was signed into law on the 26th of May, 2013, after years of Bridget Denison standing before lawmakers and recounting the loss of her daughter, again and again, until they listened. The law is simple. Anyone arrested for a felony in Nevada must submit a DNA sample, not upon conviction. At arrest, James Biela had a prior felony arrest before he ever attacked his first victim. Had the law existed then, his DNA would have entered the database. When the first assault was reported in 2007, it would have matched. He would have been identified, stopped, and Brianna Denison would have come home from that trip. Retired Detective Dave Jenkins. It's entirely possible that Mr. Biela would have been in custody for the original kidnapping and assault and would not have been in a position where he could have taken Brianna. Since Brianna's law passed, it has matched over 1,000 DNA samples to crimes across Nevada, cold cases cracked open, serial offenders identified before they could escalate, strangers protected by a girl they never knew. When the bill passed unanimously through the Nevada Senate, Bridget and Lauren Denison were watching from the chambers. The Senate erupted in a standing ovation. Bridget said, "We knew for future victims that it was the best thing we could do." That would be her legacy. Brianna Denison was 19 years old. She had a mother who was her best friend, a brother she was fierce about protecting, a boyfriend she told she loved him in her very last text. Plans for a future spent helping people understand themselves and each other. She wanted to study child psychology. She wanted to make a difference in the world. She still did. The 20th of January 2008 should have been just another morning after a fun night out with friends. Remember her for who she was. If this story stayed with you, leave a comment below. I genuinely want to hear your thoughts on this case, on Brianna, on what happened, and on what it says about the world we live in. If you're not subscribed yet, now is a good time. Turn on notifications so you don't miss the next story. Her mother called her Breezy because she reminded her of a breath of fresh air on a cool summer day. Don't forget her.